The universe is full of mysteries, but some of the most incredible ones lie right here on Earth. Throughout history, remarkable minds have envisioned the future, from atomic bombs to smartphones. These predictions, accidental or uncannily accurate, remind us of the power of human imagination. Let's dive into 10 historic predictions that came true. In 1914, as the world braced for war, H.G. Wells envisioned a different kind of destruction. In his novel The World Set Free, 1914, H.G. Wells described a future world devastated by atomic bombs long before nuclear fission was discovered. His fictional bombs were based on a then hypothetical understanding of radioactive decay, imagined as weapons that exploded continuously for days. Though scientifically inaccurate in detail, the core concept, a weapon harnessing the destructive power of atoms, was hauntingly prescient. Wells even foresaw the global impact of such weapons, predicting not just their use in warfare, but their ability to reshape geopolitics and threaten humanity itself. Decades later, the Manhattan Project brought his vision to life in terrifying fashion, when atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Wells's foresight was a haunting reminder of the power and danger of human innovation. Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance genius, was centuries ahead of his time. His notebooks are a goldmine of futuristic thinking. Centuries before their actual invention, da Vinci sketched concepts for armored vehicles, parachutes, and flying machines that bear remarkable similarities to modern tanks and helicopters. His aerial screw design, for example, is considered a precursor to the modern helicopter rotor. Though none of his designs were built during his lifetime, they demonstrated a deep understanding of physics and mechanics. His military inventions, like a covered war chariot with cannons, a rudimentary tank, revealed da Vinci's anticipation of mechanized warfare long before the Industrial Revolution. He wasn't just dreaming, he was engineering the future. Leonardo's boundless imagination offered a glimpse of a future shaped by innovation. In 1865, Jules Verne described a lunar mission with uncanny accuracy. In his novel, From the Earth to the Moon, published in 1865, Verne imagined a manned mission to the moon launched from a giant cannon. While the mechanics differ vastly from NASA's Saturn V rocket, the parallels are astonishing. Verne's fictional launch site was in Florida, just like the real Kennedy Space Center, and his astronauts splashed down in the ocean upon returning, just as Apollo astronauts would over a century later. Verne also accurately predicted the number of crew members, the weightlessness of space, and public interest in space travel. His work blurred the line between science fiction and scientific blueprint, inspiring generations of scientists and engineers to turn fiction into fact. Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor, foresaw a world connected wirelessly. In a 1909 interview, inventor Nikola Tesla predicted that in the future, people would be able to carry a device in their pockets that would allow them to communicate instantly across great distances. He described a system capable of transmitting not only voice, but images and documents, essentially a smartphone. Tesla was a pioneer in wireless technology, and his vision of a connected world sounds remarkably like today's internet. While he didn't create smartphones himself, his foresight laid the conceptual groundwork for mobile communication and the global information network we now depend on daily. Tesla imagined a world where information flowed freely, a world we now live in. George Orwell's 1984 wasn't just a novel, it was a warning. When George Orwell wrote 1984, he was reacting to the rise of totalitarian regimes, but his portrayal of a surveillance state turned out to be deeply prophetic. In Orwell's dystopia, Big Brother constantly watches citizens through telescreens, and privacy is virtually non-existent. At the time, it seemed like a cautionary tale about totalitarianism. Today, mass surveillance, both by governments and corporations, is a reality, especially in countries with authoritarian leanings. Technologies such as facial recognition, online tracking, and data mining make Orwell's warnings more relevant than ever. What was once fictional paranoia has become an ongoing global debate about freedom, privacy, and state control. Proving Orwell's vision was not just speculative, it was a warning. His work reminds us of the importance of safeguarding privacy in an interconnected world. In his novella Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, published in 1898, author Morgan Robertson described a supposedly unsinkable ship called the Titan that strikes an iceberg and sinks in the North Atlantic. The story bears eerie similarities to the actual sinking of the Titanic, which occurred 14 years later in 1912. Both ships were about the same size, lacked enough lifeboats, and met their fate on an April night after hitting an iceberg. While Robertson claimed he was simply drawing on maritime trends of the time, the uncanny resemblance between fiction and reality has led many to call Futility one of the most chilling coincidences or predictions, in literary history. In Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury envisioned a future dominated by technology and media saturation. Among his most striking predictions were seashells, tiny audio devices worn in the ears, an unmistakable parallel to modern earbuds and wireless headphones. He also described automated banking machines, essentially predicting ATMs before they became widespread. Bradbury's deeper prediction, though, was cultural, the replacement of literature and deep thought with distraction and constant entertainment. His dystopia is one where screens dominate lives and information is spoon-fed in rapid, shallow bursts, a scenario disturbingly close to the present-day digital experience. In his short story from the London Times of 1904, Mark Twain imagined a global communications network he called the telelectroscope. This device allowed people to view events across the world in real time and even conduct face-to-face conversations over vast distances, an uncanny foreshadowing of the internet and video calls. Though he was more humorist than scientist, Twain was fascinated by technology and kept abreast of innovations like the telephone and telegraph. His telelectroscope reflected the growing awareness of a connected world, and his musings stand as an early literary glimpse into the future of digital globalization. In a 1931 essay for the Strand magazine, Winston Churchill predicted that humans would one day be able to grow meat without the need to raise animals. This vision of lab-grown meat seemed fantastical at the time, but is now a rapidly advancing field in biotechnology. Companies are already producing cultured meat to address ethical and environmental concerns. Churchill's broader vision was one of scientific mastery over biology, foreshadowing not just lab-grown food but genetic modification and synthetic biology. He imagined a future where science would solve many of humanity's problems, a belief that continues to drive scientific research today. Science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke predicted the use of satellites for global communications in a 1945 article, long before the first satellite, Sputnik, was launched in 1957. He even proposed placing them in geostationary orbit, exactly where modern communication satellites are now stationed. Clarke's idea was initially considered fanciful, but it laid the groundwork for an entire industry. He wasn't just speculating, he provided mathematical models and practical applications. Today, GPS, satellite TV, and global internet networks owe much to his visionary concept, proving that sci-fi can sometimes be startlingly scientific. These visionaries dared to dream of worlds beyond their time. Their predictions remind us that the future isn't something that happens to us, it's something we create. Every innovation begins as an idea, a spark of imagination. Which prediction amazed you the most? Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe for more stories where history meets mystery.